By the way, if they want to think to take on the government if we get out of line, which they're talking again about, well, guess what? They need F-15s. They don't need a rifle.
Kneel before Zod!
I don't know what that was.
General Zod.
Wait, why are we kneeling before Zod?
It's General Zod. You don't remember General Zod?
I know. I don't get the connection between General Zod and Mumbling Joe.
Biden just said that he's going to shoot everybody with an F-15. So do what I say.
Doesn't fly F-16s. Come on, Steve. All right. Anyway, beautiful start to News from the Pew, ladies and gentlemen, where we take things from around the interwebs and we talk about them. I'm your host, Rick Barrett, the Armed Catholic, and I'm joined, as always, by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Steve Cunningham, who is going for the inspired hobo look. Give him an applause for that. He looks like the Catholic homeless, and we take pity and we shelter. So
eventually I'll get to it.
Although it is, I mean, it's like peering into Steve's mind. It's just all cluttered all over the place. All this Catholicism, it's just all over the place, which is pretty cool. We got a great show for you, ladies and gentlemen. All kidding aside, John is taking care of his family members who are needing ice cream because tonsils are out. And Fawaz, we still have a wanted poster out for him. Eventually, we may see him in August. I don't know if we're lucky, but we love Fawaz. And speaking of Fawaz, go download Sacred Heart, his newest song for the month of June. Awesome song. Go download it right now. All kidding aside, support Catholic artists and countercultural stuff. And Fawaz's his newest single for Sacred Heart is one of those things. So check that out as well. We got a lot of stuff up on the deck. I think first off, it's the first thing in the title screen. We will talk about the EU going far right, ladies and gentlemen. This happened last week, and the leftists just aren't very happy about it, Steve.
To the EU now, where opposition parties are preparing to deal a major blow to the ruling parties in Germany, France, and Austria, challenging the mainstream warmongering rhetoric in European parliamentary elections. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban says the vote presents people with a choice regarding the Ukraine conflict.
As for the message of the political content of the European Parliament elections, it can be summed up as follows: that in Hungary today the people have clearly expressed their desire for peace. If they have to choose between war and peace, they will choose peace.
Meanwhile, more and more countries are set to turn toward peace, with Germany, one of Ukraine's top weapons suppliers, now among them. Voters in Germany chose the Alternative for Germany party over Chancellor Scholz's ruling Social Democratic Party. Earlier, the AfD rejected EU sanctions against Russia over the Ukraine conflict. In France, Macron's Renaissance Party got only 15%, while the National Rally got around 31%. And in Austria, the Freedom Party gained 25%, beating the ruling People's Party. RT's Charlotte Dubensky has more.
You know, we've seen people voting towards more nationalistic policies, but I think it's fairly clear across the board that idea of anti-Russia sanctions, anti-sending weapons to Ukraine, anti-Ukraine joining the EU has been a sentiment that has been shared by many Europeans who've been voting in these elections, and we've seen, therefore, success for the parties that have campaigned on that. Let's start in France, where we'll talk about the National Rally. This is a party that's been headed by Marine Le Pen's protégé Jordan Bardella, who has been very clear how he stands on the war in Ukraine. He has said that he doesn't want French weapons to be used to strike within Russian territory. His party,
he means like fully automatic
or around a third of the vote, which is incredible.
I don't know if there's really any French weapons out there.
This clear message addressed to Emmanuel Macron and European leaders marks our country's determination to see the European Union change direction and move towards greater democracy, protection and consideration for the people of Europe. A wind of hope has risen in France, and it's only just begun.
Viva la resistance.
So around a third of voters voting for the national rally. Despite that, there were protests outside their headquarters on Sunday night as those results were coming in. President Macron, as a result of his policies, many have said he's been warmongering over the last few months with those suggestions that French troops could be sent to Ukraine to fight against Russia, with the fact that he has greenlit the fact that French weapons can be used to strike within Russian territory. That's not resonated with the voters, and as a result, he went on TV on Sunday night and
Fully
said
automatic
something pretty
croissants,
extraordinary.
buddy.
He has called a snap election dissolving the National Assembly because he said he has heard the French people.
The main lesson is clear. This is not a good result for the parties that defend Europe, including the presidential majority. It is a situation to which the rise of nationalists and demagogues is a danger not only for our nation, but also for Europe and for France's place in Europe and the world.
I think what we are seeing here, it is clear that the old Europe as we knew it is pretty much gone.
And let's discuss Germany, because it was a difficult night for Chancellor Olaf Scholz, wasn't it?
Yeah, the worst ever results for his party, the Social Democrats, taking around 14% of the vote. And again, this is a person who has been staunchly in support of Ukraine, recently has said that yes, German weapons can be used against Russia on Russian soil. So following that rhetoric that we saw from the French president. And again, that clearly has not resonated with the voters in Germany. And his party has seen these worst ever results, absolutely humiliating. And the question now is, given that Scholz's government is in a fairly tenuous position anyway, could we see what we're seeing in France and his government collapsing in the next few weeks?
It is very clear to us that there cannot be a woman or a man at the head of Europe who can be elected with the votes of right-wing populists and right-wing radicals. And we are very, very clear on that.
What's clear here is we saw a marked difference result for the AfD, which have been a party that have been anti-war in Ukraine, anti-sending weapons to Ukraine, and anti-Russian sanctions. They did very well in this party. And what's interesting is Scholz is in a very difficult position already within his own government. And there are suggestions that we could see a second government now collapsing in the next few weeks. So possibly these elections bringing not just down the French government, but the German government too.
But you know, it was a very contentious campaigning, resulting in actual violence against politicians in some cases.
Yes, that's right. We saw huge contentious campaigning through this. We've seen the AfD party politician candidates being attacked. One was stabbed last week. But I think the one thing that is on everybody's minds is that attempted assassination of Slovakia's Prime Minister, Robert Fico, just last month. This was by a pro-Ukrainian supporter who point-blank shot him 5 times. Now, Fico survived that attack. He was speaking to the media in the last week saying that it was...
So dude got out of line and a bullet jumped in front. We happened in Mexico.
What can I say? Gotta be careful of those stray bullets. They just kind of get off the leash and that's it.
Yeah, they're rioting in France right now, by the way, over this.
Yeah, well, they riot about everything. What is it? Thursday? It's Thursday, so they riot. So it's really not a shock that the French are rioting about anything.
Where that lady really goes after him. But,
yeah, right.
But it's not rioting on the good side. It's the bad guys or the controlled op are rallying or protesting against what's going on.
Ah, okay.
They're actually wanting the people. There was another video which way more violence and it would get banned. It's there were pro-immigrant people out there, tons of them. I don't know how they got there.
I mean, who knows? One can only guess how they got to that point, but it is interesting to see how the left goes right back to the playbook, Steve, with, it's authoritarians, fascists, all the bad names and all the bad words start flowing out because the far right, if you want to call them, which they're not really far right, they just kind of don't want like unfettered borders. So that makes them far right. They're not really as far as people want them to be. They're just kind of like, hey, can we not have all these people here that don't do anything, that don't really provide anything, but just suck at the teat of all the resources that we have in the country? And of course, it's one of these things that we'll never get through. And somebody in the comments, Bellator, I believe, said it right. One election, just like we've said here on this program about here at home, one election is not going to change much, Steve.
No. I saw some. Who was it? Marjorie the Gathering posted a thing out about the. Was it about the Brandon thing? We'll talk about that later. But she mentioned something about how corrupt things are, and that's why you got to get out and have the red wave in November. Going. McClanahan had a great one on today about the imperial president. How people going, Trump said he's going to be a dictator right off the bat. And what he's going to do, it means day one, he's going to sign all these executive orders that can get rid of everything that Brandon did, which Brandon did day one to get rid of everything that Trump did that he didn't like, which Trump did that he did on day one to get everything that Obama didn't like, which Obama did the first day. It's a chain reaction all the way back that day one. They're going to do rule by executive government, rule by elected king. And that one vote is not going to do a dad blasted thing. Oh, wait, what happened in Argentina?
In the vicinity of the Congress of the Republic of Argentina, tension continues to mount following a fierce clash between federal forces and protesters. We are talking about the federal police, the National Army, and the Argentinian Naval Prefecture, which advanced with a certain vehemence on the demonstrators who were trying to break and succeeded in breaking part of the perimeter fence that was protecting part of the Congress of the Argentinian Republic. It is important to emphasize that this advance by the federal forces provoked, among other things, a very strong clash with the demonstrators, with rubber bullets, with Molotov cocktails that flew from one side to the other, with the dispersion through the use of water cannon of the Argentinian federal police and the use of pepper spray to disperse the demonstrators in some way, and in this sense, to obtain the complete absence of the protests in the vicinity of the Congress. The majority of the participants in these huge demonstrations are about 600 meters from where the
Now they're having all kinds of things. Like he said he was going to privatize some things. Now he's not privatizing a lot of things. Whitney Webb has this on Malay. Latest plans have involved Facebook Meta AI algos to educate Argentinian kids and having Google's AI reform the Argentinian government. Outsourcing the public sector to Silicon Valley is not libertarian, especially when Silicon Valley is a cartel ran by U.S. military intelligence. And if you don't understand that, check out more of her stuff. She gets big time into that. But just like, I would like to see that whole thing with Marjorie and was it AOC and the eyebrows thing?
Oh yeah. That was also with Corey Baker, I think it was.
Yeah. Can we get them to just go all out? Like, the Italians are doing it.
Yeah, but the Italians always do it better.
Yeah.
The Italians definitely do it better.
What's in Taiwan? Dude broke 9 tackles, got down the end zone, took the sideline, and high stepped it all the way to the door.
That's the best run I've seen in a while. Actually, it was very efficient. So good for him in that regard. We're seeing this far right electorate, and everybody wants to be like Argentina, even though Steve just showed the president of Argentina is great at some things, kind of very much like Trump, great at a couple things, not great on much else. Who's the president? El Salvador is more the model you want to kind of be following, whether you like it or not, if you're looking for some kind of escape out of this. I know he had a long interview with Tucker recently, but the fact is that it's election season, Steve, as we've been talking about. It is election season. People are starting to get worried or upset or whatever the case may be. And
Well, you said
Our
selection.
eyes are focused on the wrong thing.
You said selection wrong, but
yeah.
notice in that one clip with the EU, they all mention Ukraine, and Brandon comes out the other day and he apologized to Ukrainian President Zelensky for the holdup because he's been more focused on most favored nation, Israel. Didn't they just come out with a thing that they're going to bring in like $70 billion, $1 trillion for the rest of the next 15, 20 years or something like that?
I mean, you can just make up whatever number you want because it doesn't really matter at this point. We are so financially off the ball on this thing. I don't think people understand how much money $1 billion really is. So when they start saying like, "Oh, well, there are $1 billion,"
Ukraine's 12th Special Forces Azov Brigade passed Leh.
Yeah, so U.S. just lifts the ban on supplying the Azov Battalion, the neo-Nazi group. We're officially pro-Nazi.
Key vetting as carried out by the U.S. Department of State.
The U.S. has lifted its years-long ban on supplying weapons and providing training to the neo-Nazi Azov fighters. Just a bit of context for you here. All that was under the so-called Leahy law, which is a human rights statute that forbids Washington from providing any sort of military assistance, being it equipment, weapons, or training to foreign armed forces who have a checkered reputation, and especially those who have been found guilty of human rights violations, or even
obviously that Israel doesn't count. They could abuse everybody, and we'll still give them.
Israel's baked into everybody, so that's already it's written off.
Right.
As violating human rights and committing war crimes. Now, for years, the Azov Battalion fell under these criteria. Now, a special committee has said that they have conducted yet another review, and apparently now the reputation of the Azov Brigade is a clean slate. This, by the way, goes in stark contrast with the findings of the United Nations. Now, this follows a lengthy campaign spearheaded by Kiev to whitewash the reputation of its Azov.
We help Ukraine now, they can become the best business partner we ever dreamed of. That $10 to $12 trillion of critical mineral assets could be used by Ukraine and the West, not given to Putin and China. This is a very big deal how Ukraine ends.
Well, speaking of Ukraine, we're calling this a segment. We're calling this a transition. The conflict in Ukraine has started to bear some fruit as far as retaliation towards us, and now you got the Russian Navy is going to Cuba. So Joe Biden is so old that he's bringing back the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Russia's northern fleet arrived in Cuba after conducting military drills in the Atlantic. An RT Spanish correspondent has the latest from Havana.
In the Navy.
The Russian naval detachment of the Northern Fleet arrived in the city. At the entrance to the bay, one of the ships of this naval detachment fired a salute shot as a sign of greeting to the city, to which the Cuban armed forces also responded with artillery shots. This naval unit includes the frigate Admiral Gorshkov, as well.
Better hope those are friendly shots at each other.
Yeah, right. The people start shooting stuff.
Submarine, Kazan, and 2 auxiliary ships. This visit attracted the attention of the international media, and the Cuban government responded by saying that this visit corresponds to the close friendly ties between Russia and Cuba, which is carried out in accordance with international rules signed by Cuba, as well as that it's normal for military vessels from other countries to visit the island. This naval detachment does not carry nuclear weapons. This week, there will be a visit by a Canadian warship to Havana, as well as a Venezuelan ship to the city of Santiago de Cuba.
It is the first time a Russian frigate armed with hypersonic missiles has entered the Caribbean. The naval detachment, like I said, is fresh off drills in the Atlantic, with the nuclear submarine Kazan taking part in a coordinated computer simulation to strike targets 600 kilometers away.
In the waters of the Atlantic Ocean, the ship's combat crew practiced the actions of launching a missile strike against enemy surface targets using long-range precision weapons. Combat crews act accordingly. We receive a signal, put a mark on a map, and analyze the situation. We determine whether the target is within reach or not. We also look to see if we fall into the enemy's strike range. We select an optimal starting point or firing position. Then we carry out actions according to the firing cycle and in the conditions of how we would use the weapon.
I think you feel all warm and fuzzy.
I feel great. I mean, this is, consequences, as they say, consequences of actions. And we don't have to say, imagine if the Russians put stuff in Cuba, because now they have. Great job, everybody.
Hypersonic too.
Yeah, these hypersonic missiles too they're nothing to laugh at. They are actually pretty potent when it comes to it. I know, and this is the problem. I was talking to somebody in Rhode Island last week when I was up there for my nephew's graduation. Congratulations, my nephew. You're amazing. But they were like, "Oh yeah, the Russians. We've proven the Russians to be so weak, and this, that, and they actually said this." And I said, "You realize the Russians could have just smoked the Ukrainians in a week if they really wanted to, and the fact that they have been restrained in how they've acted is, y'all need to stop acting, stop believing the propaganda. Like, oh, I saw one Russian tank get smoked, so they're obviously all bad. You're being fed, bits and pieces. But believe me, the Russian military has not been tested in Ukraine. And secondly, it has not been defeated in Ukraine. And you don't want to start having that attitude, because it's not going to work out well for you."
Well, not to make Scott Ritter infallible, but he knows a little bit about this stuff. Here's him on what hypersonic are.
A general nuclear war. Until we take the ATACMS out of their control, until we take the Scalp missile, the Storm Shadow out of their control, we have pushed down to Ukraine the ability to create the conditions for a nuclear conflict. Now, fortunately, there's an adult in the room, and his name is Vladimir Putin. Every St. Petersburg International Economic Forum in recent history, Putin has said things that the world should listen to. And this one was no different. What he said is that Russia understands the insanity that the West is involved in. And so he has put in additional interim measures.
I think it was the other day he said that how the U.S. government is pretty much acting like a bunch of evil idiots. I mean, he's not wrong.
He has created room for escalation management. For instance, he said, if you attack us with HIMARS or ATACMS, we may not go straight to nuclear war. We may choose to attack you using our precision weapons that we'll turn over to a third-party proxy just to keep this game of escalation going. Now, a lot of people heard that and went, oh, how provocative can he be? And I heard that and I said, thank God he just put an escalation control mechanism in place. And he also talked down. He said, yes, we have nuclear weapons. Yes, we have a doctrine. And yes, that doctrine can be implemented and will be implemented if need to be. But we're not there yet. He brought it down. He brought the temperature down, everything down. He's doing everything right to manage this. The question is, are we in the West listening? And are we going to respond in kind to de-escalate? And I'm afraid I'm not hearing that from the West right now. Maybe we can, but this is one of the reasons for this press conference, is to drive home the absolute imperative for the United States to take a leadership role in de-escalating the Ukrainian conflict.
Where do you think these proxies would be located that we would want to test this out, this theory?
I mean, that's a Russian foreign policy, national security policy prerogative. But I'll say this: a Russian ship has arrived in a Cuban port. On board that ship are Zircon hypersonic missiles that are in range of the United States, and the United States has nothing that can shoot them down. There's also a Russian nuclear-powered cruise missile submarine in the same area. The weapons on board these two ships have the ability to take the East Coast off of the map of the United States. That's with, of course, nuclear weapons, but they're also precision guided. How does it feel to be in the White House knowing that you're 12 minutes away from dying and there's nothing anybody can do to save you? The Secret Service can't get you out of the White House fast enough. And it's not a nuclear explosion. It's a Zircon missile that's going to come in and hit the White House. It can't be stopped. If the president's in the White House and the Russians decide to kill him, he's a dead man. Anybody in the United States on the East Coast is a dead man if the Russians decide to kill him. You see, that's what we have done to the Russians. We have them living under that. You know, every morning that Putin goes to work, he's 12 minutes away from dying if the
Yeah. I mean, that's very well said. And people are, for some reason, prideful, I guess, because of, you know, back-to-back World War champs, forgetting Vietnam and Afghanistan and Korea and all those other things, thinking that because we have the most powerful supposed military in the world, blah, 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 well, you know, nobody else is a threat, forgetting that the Russians are a threat. And this is getting to places that nobody really should want to be at all, because if the Russians, Steve, if the Russians feel like they're even getting, you know, France jumps in and all these other countries that say they want to, and the Russians feel like they need to retaliate, they'll just use these, and that'll pretty much make the point that they want. And I don't think any of us want that.
No, but as Phoebe said, I mean, as long as you're in a state of grace, we've said it before, we got yelled at that for, they could nuke us. I mean, who cares? I mean, in a sense, would it suck? Yeah, it would be a pretty hot day, man-made global warming right there. But yeah, like you said about those, we do not. I've heard that many times before. We do not have any. The U.S. the U.S. does not have anything to stop those hypersonic missiles too fast, and they know it. They know it. We know it. They know that we know that they know it. They know that we know that they know that we do it. It's bad, but hey, you know, I was joking with a guy at the gym saying, I will tell, hey, Pennsylvania Avenue, that's who you talk to. Us here in North Carolina, South Carolina,
yeah,
we have we do not care what you guys doing. Anything below Virginia, the northern line of Virginia, we do not care. Talk to DC. You want to, you need somebody to go up there, we'll bail some. I know, just kidding. This is for entertainment purposes only.
Right. Disclaimer.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna shoot Miami or Atlanta or anything like that. They might shoot. They might put a. They might shoot a warning. You know, just like what's that movie? Spaceballs. Shot a warning shot up her nose. They might shoot one in the
nose, not up it.
Yeah, they might shoot one in the Atlantic. Who knows? Just to give them an idea. Hey, we can do this. We're not joking. They might. I mean, get a little press, a news press on there too. Maybe not. They might tell them, hey, we're going to do this, and then do it in 5 minutes, because they kind of, so that they have like a little receipt saying that, hey, we told them, they said okay. Kind of like was it Israel a couple weeks ago? It was they were shooting each other, but they told each other, we're going to go here and we're going to shoot. We're going to blow these buildings up.
Make sure everybody's out.
With it, right? Yes, we're okay with that. Go ahead. And that's why everyone was like, why are we in a war? Well, because they would just say, hey, we're going to punch you in the face. You can punch us in the face. Here's where you're going to hit. And they all did. They went on with the game plan.
Yeah, because it's all the prospect of war is bad for everybody, because then that's bad for business. But not great. Not great that the Russians are now coming back over here to do that and escalating all these things. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is lost at the G7 summit. I didn't prep Steve for that video clip, but
I got this. The new trend. Do the Biden.
Okay. Oh, is this the squat?
People showing each other just like that. Yeah.
The squat and pop that apparently happened at Normandy during the D-Day celebration. Folks, I'm not on board. I know, and I am not on board making fun of Biden. The man is 80 years old or whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. He does not know where he is at this point. The man is close to leaving this earth, and that's not a threat. That's just medical. They can put as many drugs in him as they want for as much longer. Man's not going to, I don't even think he'll make it to November. And if he does, he's not going to make it to the new year just because natural causes. And yet his wife continues to parade him about because she wants power. She wants all these kinds of things. And every day that he continues to push these policies of transgenderism and abortion and all this other stuff, further he falls away from God. And you know, 4 final things are not going to be good to Joe Biden. So pray for the guy to come back to the faith. Really, that's that. I know everybody looks at me like I'm a crazy idiot when I say that, but you know, the right thing to do is to pray for the guy's soul, because it's going to be meeting God.
We keep talking about that all the time. You know, everyone's like, pray for Trump. They're sending Trump Fatima medals, statues, rosaries. Priests will go into the White House. All this. Okay, why aren't you doing that for Brandon? Why aren't you doing that for all these guys? Why is nope? And that's great that we're doing it for DJ Trump, but.
Supposed to pray for your enemies. I know.
I
know I'm cherry picking the Bible, folks, but that is something that is said there.
We're gonna let's talk to the Turning Point Conference and ask them that one. See if you know.
I mean, good for Mike Church. Mike Church and the Crusade channel, Crusade Radio Network, is going to be at Turning Point, so that's cool. Maybe they'll be able to bring a different point of view to that conference. But that whole class of people, I've never been a big fan of. In that regard, Laura, yes, we know we know Trump loves IVF. It's like the 3rd time you commented on it. We get it. We are not approving Trump on that. Okay,
all that stuff.
We know all that stuff. The guy he's not a saint. He's not even a Catholic. But the fact of the matter is, I kind of just like him. He's a likable guy, and you know, I'd vote for him just to see all hell break loose. I mean, that's really my voting goals at this point. There's nothing else I really vote for. But the fact of the matter is, pray for your enemies, pray for Joe, because I don't know if you want to show the clip of him at the G7 where he honestly, it's sad. It's sad because his wife should not allow him to do this. His wife should not be parading him out there. Look at him. He's just wandering. And everybody else is like, do we go get this guy? What do we do? What do we do? You know, what? Oh, hey, Joe, come on back. You know, whatever, man. Oh, yeah, okay. Like, come on. This is not something that this man should be going through.
Come on.
Right? I know all he wanted to do, and maybe this is the devil's bargain he made. Maybe he did sell his soul for this, even though it's not his to sell. You know, to be president, right? He always wanted to be president. And I guess this Joe right here in this moment is be careful what you wish for, right? Be careful what you wish for. Joe always wished to be president. And they're like, yeah, you can be president. You ain't going to remember any of it, but you can be it. So it's pretty sad in that regard.
He was put in, he was selected. This is Obama's third reign.
Third term, yeah.
I mean, even when Trump gets selected, because you don't get elected, you get selected to be in. He's there for a purpose of either, like I said, I think he's there. He's going to catch some flack and things that are going to come down. But you do not get in that position.
No.
Being, you know, hey Rick, today we're going to roll out a virtuous guy. We're going to have Rick come out here, Barrett, to come out and vote for him, please. And we're going to raise some money for him. And this is going to be a straight up, presidential race, and that don't happen. No. Nobody can just say, oh yeah, you know, if you dream for anything, you can become president of the United States. No, you have to sell your soul first. You have to get in with the right group of people who have the power to get you that way. You have to kiss enough tail and be a puppet for all these other masters out there. It's WWF, like we said before, World Wrestling Federation. I don't like WWE. The entertainment thing is the whole they had the brand change.
Well, it's because of the Panda organization or whatever that organization was.
It's all a show. I mean, it just everything you see is. Well, let's do a little funny stuff before we get into other ones.
Before we get into the real depressing
34 felonies, right?
I love it.
He'll twist it, man. He'll make it fun. He'll make it cool. It's fine. 34 counts. Nobody's done it. Nobody can do that. Nobody can do it. 34. It's never been done. Our numbers are so big. These are big numbers. 34. El Chapo couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. 22 times. What a failure. Guilty on 22 counts. I said, what an amateur. 34. No, we're doing better. Al Capone couldn't do it. 27 counts, which is really beginner stuff. That's beginner stuff. He couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. The Zodiac Killer. Can you believe this? 9 counts. I go, this is it. What is this, amateur hour? 9 counts. The Zodiac. I call him the Zodiac loser. That's what I call him. That's what I call him. We are going to jail, and we are going to jail so quick and so strong, and nobody's going this quick. 2 days. We'll be there in 2 days. We're making felonies great again. That's what we're doing.
I can hear Rick, though. I can hear Rick's voice, though.
Oh, this guy's fantastic.
I'll be out in the yard, right? The jail yard. Catch me outside. I'll be out in the yard. Shackles. These are going to be great shackles. Golden. We're going to get the golden shackles. They say Trump's yard right there. Trump's yard.
Yeah. Well, Trump would run it in about 15 minutes. Let's not lie. If he actually did go to prison.
Well, just on that point about the influence or outside influence, the Jewish lobby. Did you see that with what's his face? Massey.
Oh, Thomas Massey. Yep.
They also had I think Main Street News even picked up on it.
AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. It was incorporated in 1963. For 10 years prior to that, it was known as the American Zionist Committee for Public Affairs. AIPAC calls itself America's pro-Israel lobby, and according to its website, it has over 3 million members across the country in regional chapters working to, quote, expand and strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship, end quote. You may know AIPAC as being one of the biggest and most recognizable donors to many of the members of Congress in your state. But contributing to campaigns is a relatively new function of the organization. Before 2021, AIPAC did not endorse candidates nor give political contributions. Its focus was on lobbying elected officials, not actually electing officials. But in a dramatic shift in policy, AIPAC began directly funding candidates and spending big on races in 2021. AIPAC Political Action Committee, AIPAC-PAC, filed something called a Statement of Organization with the FEC just in time for the 2022 election cycle, where it spent $50 million, including both direct contributions to candidates and outside spending, like TV advertisements. According to AIPAC, it donated money to 365 candidates from both parties, including every single member of both Democratic and Republican leadership in Congress. 109 Republicans who voted against the certification of the 2020 presidential election in America received campaign contributions from AIPAC. All in all, AIPAC gave money to 342 members of the 118th Congress. The 2022 elections were the most expensive midterms in American history, with a total cost of $8.9 billion spent. Now, last year, AIPAC ranked 15th in total expenditure by a political action committee, according to data collected by Open Secrets. But take a look at the other funders that AIPAC is competing against for that title. Act Blue and Win Red. They are Democratic and Republican Party machines. Save America is Donald Trump's money-raising operation. The Conservative Club for Growth, Emily's List, focuses on electing Democratic women to office. All of the PACs on this list are massively domestic-focused ideological machines. AIPAC is the only organization in the top 20 whose interests are focused entirely on America's relationship to a foreign government. Now, let's take a look at who benefits from AIPAC's largesse. Here are the top 20 recipients in Congress, the House and the Senate, of AIPAC money in the 2022 midterm cycle, according to Open Secrets. They're members of both parties. They come from every corner of the country with varying levels of experience in Congress. The Democrat Glenn Ivey of Maryland tops the list. He beat out fellow Democrat Donna Edwards in Maryland's House primary after AIPAC poured millions into pro-Ivey advertisements and mailers. Edwards was running for a second stint in Congress after serving during the Obama administration, where she voted present, not even a no, on a number of pro-Israel resolutions. So the money poured in against her. Not even an endorsement from Nancy Pelosi could save her. Michigan Democrat Haley Stevens unseated Democratic Representative Andy Levin. Here's what Levin had to say about that.
I'm really Jewish, but AIPAC can't stand the idea that I am the clearest, strongest Jewish voice in Congress, standing for a simple proposition that there's no way to have a secure democratic homeland for the Jewish people unless we achieve the political and human rights of the Palestinian people.
they should be registered with FARA. This is what FARA is where there's gray area, where it's an American representing a foreign country. Yes. Let's look and see if you're getting any money from that foreign country. Are you a dual citizen with that foreign country? Are you being directed by, for instance, is Netanyahu speaking to your group, advising you on your next move? Are you getting money from the military industrial complex? Because to understand AIPAC, I think it's easiest to model them as a military industrial lobby. Their biggest thing is they want more equipment, more military equipment from the United States going to Israel. In fact, when they used to be allowed in my office, the argument they would make is, oh, we're just stimulating the U.S. military industrial complex because every single penny of the $3.8 billion that they nominally get, now they're getting way more than that, but that Israel nominally gets goes to U.S. military contractors. Now, that didn't make me warm and fuzzy, okay? But that is their argument. And if you notice what they advocate for, I think sometimes they advocate for things that even Israelis wouldn't advocate for.
I believe that.
They would, I think, be okay with a war with Iran, like an all-out, apocalyptic war with Iran. Whereas there are people in Israel say, "Whoa, hold on a second, we'd rather not have a war with Iran." But AIPAC does things that lead us in that direction, and so they're kind of like what the NRA is to gun owners, AIPAC is to Israel, or what the Farm Bureau is to farmers, AIPAC is to Israel. In other words,
represents a faction.
Right. They represent a faction, but usually a corporate faction that, and they're using the imprimatur of grassroots that they've diluted or confused into bullying congressmen. And the NRA does that, and Farm Bureau does that. I'm picking on some, other right-wing groups here.
Well, for sure. And by the way, I think there are probably a lot of things that AIPAC is for that I'm for, and Farm Bureau, NRA, same thing. But
right.
The idea of a foreign government playing in our political campaigns openly in that they're showing you they're doing it, but opaquely in that you can't track it because they're not registered. Is there any other Republican who has your views on this?
Well, I have Republicans who come to me on the floor and say, I wish I could vote with you today. Yours is the right vote, but I would just take too much flack back home. And I have Republicans who come to me and say, that's wrong what AIPAC is doing to you. Let me talk to my AIPAC person. By the way, everybody but me has an AIPAC person.
What does that mean, an AIPAC person?
It's like your babysitter, your AIPAC babysitter.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. There's more. Did you know about SCOTUS?
No, I did not, Steve. Show me.
U.S. Supreme Court justices reported receiving gifts in annual financial disclosure forms for 2023, released on Friday. It includes a stay in a Bali hotel and tickets to a Beyoncé concert, as well as nearly $1.6 million in book advances and royalties. Conservative Justice Clarence Thomas has come under criticism for failing to disclose gifts from businessman and Republican donor Harlan Crow. Thomas revised his 2019 form to acknowledge he accepted food and lodging at a Bali hotel and at a California club. Liberal Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said she received 4 concert tickets from music superstar Beyoncé valued at over $3,700.
You kind of figured she was
Conservative Justice Samuel Alito got a 90-day extension on his filing. He has been under fire for reports of flags associated with Donald Trump's attempts to overturn his 2020 election defeat, flying outside his home. The filings showed the justice's outside income, gifts, and investment transactions last year. They are closely watched as the justices have faced increasing scrutiny over ethics following revelation.
Hey, the book deals, they ended up, there was some kind of lawsuit that they went after this book publisher. And it just so happens that they sided with the publisher that they get published with.
What a shock. What a shock. I mean, Steve, you are breaking news here today for me, buddy.
Maybe we should vote harder.
No, I mean, if we just get Trump in there. I actually had a guy tell me that yesterday at the gun range that I work at. He's like, we just got to get the right guy back in office. No, it's just
piece of cake. It's magic. Dun, dun, it's magic. Hello.
No.
All you need is an F-15.
That's an F-16. But yes. Well, he said an F-15. So Steve is right. I'm not trying to be, we're having a Joe Biden moment ourselves here. Yeah, he said an F-15, and remarkably, many of them are on the market. Maybe we can go to Ukraine. Steve, you and I, we can grab a couple of them on sale.
I have about $24.50 in the bank account right now. So
well, in Ukraine, that's like $1 billion. So you're fine. If you what is it? The exchange rate's pretty high on there. So
how's the gas?
We should be able to get two. We should be able to get two of them. So
can we afford the gas?
Yeah. I mean, whatever you're gonna do. I don't know. Do we have anything on Hunter? Or were we able to get anything on Hunter Biden?
Okay. I'm sorry. If you look at what's on the Biden laptop, the representation of foreign countries without registering as a foreign agent, the money laundering with over 20 different shell corporations to move money back and forth from international wire transfers from countries that we have a hostile relationship with, either Kazakhstan or Ukraine or Russia or China. The fact that not only did the Hunter Biden and the president's brother James Biden participate in these transactions, but so did the president of the United States. All of the money that was made from foreign countries to sell influence to the vice president at the time. You know what's interesting about these felony gun charges? Of all the crimes that Hunter Biden appears to have committed, the federal gun charges are maybe one of only a handful that don't also implicate the president of the United States.
The DOJ is going to do anything about any of these Biden family allegations. I'm not holding my breath. But these federal level crimes, again, are part of the government and media's misdirection. They would love us to zoom in and just look at that picture. Those are the cases they control. They can drag them and sweep it all under the rug. But what happens if you zoom out? The Marco Polo project on Hunter Biden's laptop notes over 170 crimes. 170 crimes. Clearly documented. We know the place and the date and everything. And they're spread out all over the country in states that perhaps you're living in right now. So let me go over some of these crimes. This is the list and the states where some of these crimes happen. It is staggering. I haven't heard of nearly any of these. If the president's son is implicated in 170 crimes, why hasn't justice been done? I mean, it seems kind of relevant.
I have the answer. Because it's a show.
Yeah, because it's all baked in, folks. It's a big club, and Steve says you're not in it.
They threw the red meat out for Trump for the quote unquote left. They go get excited. Here's your red meat for that if they do eat meat, or I don't know what you call it for them. And then a couple weeks later, they threw the red meat out for the right side to go after. Hey, we'll give you the Biden things. Calm it down to the Trump thing. We'll just give.
The only thing that would be ironic is if he did believe in how this whole thing works. If SCOTUS took up because a lot of people are saying that that Hunter was on the 4473. If you've ever filled one out, it says, are you under the influence of an illicit substance? A lot of people are arguing that's a violation of the Fifth Amendment by self-incrimination. And Hunter Biden could be the guy that gets 4473s thrown out. He could get federal background checks thrown out by SCOTUS, which would be just beautiful as far as irony goes, because his daddy is still campaigning on trying to get rid of guns. And if his son is the reason why background checks get diminished even a little bit, I'll take that win. I'll be more than happy to take that win in that regard.
And Brandon could just, pardon him in a couple months anyways. But
here's my hot take. I think he doesn't like Hunter. I I don't think he likes his son. I don't think he likes his son at all. Because I think he loves Bo.
Held out on the crack with him. That's why.
I think he loved Bo, the older one, because he can't stop talking about him. I think Hunter was always kind of like the kid, you know, the wild one, the one that was a PETA. And so he's like, I'll just let him sit in jail. I don't care. Let him rot for a couple months, you know, a year or two, just for because if he even goes to jail, he's going to go to fancy jail. He's not going to go to January 6th jail. He's going to go to nice jail.
Nobody
goes. What?
You and I would go to jail. Nobody goes.
Yeah, we go to real jail. We'll go to fancy jail. He'll be under like house arrest or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, they're not going to jail.
I think he'll pardon him on his last day in office, but I think just to teach him a lesson, and I just don't think he likes him, he'll let him sit there and let him rot for a little bit.
Well, like I said, it's like Amy just put up. It's a distraction. I mean, now in a sense, now you can legitimize the Trump ruling too with this ruling. What do we have here? We got kangaroo everywhere. I mean, yeah, it wasn't bad what he did. Yeah, these guys have done criminal things since we lost count. 100 years, 200 years. I mean, I think they're upset that people throwing their political opponents in jail. You see GOPers saying that. Go, wait a minute. Your Lord and Savior Abraham Lincoln did that. You made a temple for that dude. Everything that we're having the problems with right now is because of your Lord right there. That guy. I mean, look at Mark Levin, everyone's favorite.
Even Beck, you just put up there.
Huh?
Yeah. Beck is the same way. Beck he reveres Lincoln.
Beck is terrible. And within being Mormon, then he's got that white horse mythology thing that who's going to save America? You got to take everything with a grain of salt with that, because there's zero way of breaking that up in his mind. We got to have this. We have to centralize everything, the centralized authority again. But again, it goes to that idea. If these guys weren't centralists, nationalists, they wouldn't have a voice. I mean, imagine a decentralized union here. Beck would have nothing to go on. His whole purpose is to talk about how bad things are in DC. He doesn't talk about how bad things are in Minnesota or how bad things are in New York or his own state of Texas. He doesn't focus on Texas at all, really. Maybe like 2% of his whole content. It's all about the big chunk of centralization. These guys have to have it. That Turning Point USA thing. The only reason that exists is because they're all centralists. And what's the root of these centralists? It's communism.
Communism and capitalism are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
People do not want to admit it, but it is, when you get down to it, they are two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you want centralization, great. You're a communist.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a Hamiltonian idea. It's screwed up America. And that's the antithesis of what all these guys. You read the Federalist Papers, they talk about how the states would pretty much be unlimited in powers, and the feds would be the general government would have limited and weak in a sense. They were for trade interstate, foreign wars, and being able to do anything foreign trade in that way. That was really it. What do we have now? They're talking about contraception at the federal level. You get that at Walgreens if you order one. We're not saying go get it, but it's just one of those. In reality, you go down to the 7-Eleven and get that. These guys are wanting to make it a federal law or right or whatever, just like everything else. Everything's got to be a right. Even with Massey saying about having the raw milk thing, which I'm all for, that's still a centralized solution.
It's still getting a permission slip from the government.
Yeah. Please, can I drive my own car on the road today? And instead of having to pay a private property tax for it, all this. The whole problem is centralization, and all these guys, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, Beck, the Daily Wire?
Daily Wire
are all centralists.
Yeah, 100%. It's easier to promote. Always easier to promote than anything else.
Hey, we got a sponsor. We got a sponsor for the program. I don't know. Did you know about that?
Oh no, let me see.
We don't get paid by it or anything like that, but we do have a spot. I told him we'd play the thing at least. I forgot where I put the thing. Metals.
The world is not your home. Sin, chaos, corruption, The devil is doing his best to destroy your family. As fathers, we're called to pray, protect, and provide for our families. During times of economic uncertainty, spiritual warfare, and political instability, we need real assets to protect our wealth.
Midwest Precious Metals. Roll over your IRA today.
Now I feel like Beck.
Yeah, I feel better now. I do feel better now. But we do have to end the show a little bit early because I gotta go.
You got a beauty date.
Obviously I have a haircut, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get to our saint of the week and our cry room. So Steve, what you got?
All right, I'm gonna go with some heroes drive scooters. I don't know if you guys heard about this.
Yep.
Oh, where's my video? There it is.
I saw this group of teenagers like deliberately making marks and scratch marks with their Lime scooters, like just all around.
Several witnesses confronted the group and called police.
We're not going to sit by as we watch people deliberately commit a hate crime, like right in the middle of downtown.
After looking at security footage, officers
How many cameras
arrested
they got
3
there?
teenagers. 2 are minors and 1 is 19-year-old Russell.
There's no other crime.
Charged with 1 count malicious mischief.
Turco had his first appearance in court this afternoon. The judge released him under the condition he doesn't go near the crosswalk or the other teenagers. Prosecutors, though, had asked the judge to set a $15,000 bond since that's how much it costs to repaint the mural.
15,000.
50,000. Yes. No. I got more. Atlanta. 196,000.
That is gay. That is gay.
Can I sign up for that job?
Yeah, right. That's government in a nutshell. Right
And
there.
on top of that, Lime. Well, first off, they're facing 10 years in prison for that. By the way, you know, free speech. Oh, hold on, wait, where's the one on here? This protect the speech, hate crime. Remember that. That's literally going on right now.
Yep.
So they're facing 10 years from the homo fascist mafia. Lime, the scooters, put a no-go zone on there. So if you don't know, if they put a little red thing on their thing, so if you get close to it, it shuts off. You have to move away. Ding, 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 ding. The Great Reset stuff. I heard about that autonomous car thing. That's coming up. Oh, no-go zone. Imagine that when you get in your own car because you're not going to own the car anymore. And you say, hey, I want to go to, say you want to go to Mass. I'm sorry, Kyle, you cannot go there. What do you think you're trying to do, Kyle? Yeah, that's just a little bit. They can do that. They'll put that on a higher level one of these days. You're not the 15-minute city. You're trying to get out of your little town. Good luck.
Stop at the border. They'll stop you at the border of your little town.
Yeah, turn around. I guess where did my cry room stuff go? Oh, I'm not going to say the words for it, but you can tell there's something jibbity jab. Anybody that's been promoting that, go ahead and send them stuff like this. 78% report administrative changes. There was another one here. No, that's not it. Lockdown was meant to save lives, but instead it was put future mankind at risk. The sluggish sperm. We need to take. There's mentioned this years ago how it was an attack on humanity, and you're starting to see a lot of that with cancers going up, people dropping dead left and right. I mean, what was it? Just the other day it was an Olympic athlete, 32 years old, something like that, just
drop dead.
And it's common now. You're so used to it. It's like, no, it was another football dude. He was here. No, he was with Buckner. Had to take care of the guy on his team. Drops down during workout, and no one thought about. That's great that Harris went after him. Everyone was talking about that, which is great. But no one said, "Wait a minute, how come that guy dropped over with a cardiac arrest?"
Don't think about it, Steve. Just don't think about it because it makes you hurt. But yes, that's yeah. There you go. There's
by the way, Black Lives Matter.
Is that your saying of the week?
Yes. Anybody that wants to drive over a homo fascist paint job and spin tires out on it like the trucks are doing, putting a black lines on it. Yeah. You're the real hero.
All right. My cry room is Star Wars because it's really terrible what they did in the third episode of this new show pretty much completely destroyed. If you were into Star Wars, it's completely ruined. There are now lesbian witches who can just create babies.
Oh, is
So,
that the one with the lady again in the interview said I just try to make white people cry?
yeah, no, yes, that's it. That is, yeah. So the future is female, which means it's dead. Which means it's completely gone. Great job. $4 billion just flushed down the drain. And what are you gonna do about that? Saint of the week. Last night, Tom Brady was inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame. Not trying to put athletes on pedestals, but his message was actually a pretty good one.
Want to play football for the simple reason that it is hard. It's hard when you're young to wake up in the off season at 6 a.m. to go train and work out, knowing that all your friends are sleeping in and eating pancakes. It's hard when you're on your way to practice, weighed down with all your gear, and it's 90 degrees out and all the other kids are at the pool or at the beach, and your body is already completely exhausted from workouts in 2-a-days. It's hard to throw, catch, block, and tackle, and hit kids when they're way bigger and way more developed than you, only to go home that night bruised and battered and strained, but knowing you have to show up again the next day for just the chance to try again. But understand this, life is hard. No matter who you are, there are bumps and hits and bruises along the way. And my advice is to prepare yourself, because football lessons teach us that success and achievement come from overcoming adversity, and that team accomplishment far exceeds anyone's individual goals. To be successful at anything, the truth is you don't have to be special. You just have to be what most people aren't. Consistent, determined, and willing to work for it. No shortcuts. If you look at all my teammates here tonight, it would be impossible to find better examples of men who embody that work ethic, integrity, purpose, determination, and discipline that it takes to be a champion in life.
So, I mean, it's not great, but the idea that, hey, man, it's hard and you have to work for it.
No, I mean, that was a great speech for not just life, but flip. I like listening to Jocko stuff. So when you learn Jocko, think Catholic in there too. Think Catholic in that. And a lot of priests, especially the Byzantine priests, speak of exactly what Tom just said. Talking about it, goes, all these athletes that do this and they train and they work their body, sleep right, eat right, all this. Why don't we do and their message across the board? I could grab each one and they'll say the same thing. Why don't each one of us do that in the spiritual life? Yeah. Working harder, praying harder, focusing harder. You know, there was a story of a guy they bring up of a dad that would, like, clockwork. He would kick everybody out of the room so he could do his prayers, and then everybody come back. He'd be back with them and all this. We don't focus like we focus like that. You're not crazy. You're celebrated. You're not a fanatic. But if you do that in the spiritual life, you're name called and all this. But he's discipline. It's discipline to do 6, 12, and 6. Say the rosary. Do it right. Kneeling right. Standing at attention, not just stay. Because people are like, oh, you're standing at the business thing. Yeah, but you're standing supposed to be like an army, stand at attention type deal. You're not just, hey, you doing whatever. Or, everything, your body motion, everything, what you're reading about, focusing on this, the discipline to get up. And they say about getting out of bed like hot coals in the morning, not just hitting the alarm clock, but getting your butt out of bed and dropping your knees or saying a prayer real quick, things like that. We'll do that for sports, but we won't do it for a spiritual life.
Yeah. I mean, it's 100%. And that discipline, which we all struggle with, right? We all struggle with it. And this weekend I was up in Rhode Island and like I've already said 4 times, and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to go to mass down the street. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to Providence. And they're like, why are you going to Providence? It's the only Latin mass here. The FSSP has one Latin mass in all Rhode Island because it's the size of like DFW airport.
Yeah.
One mass in Providence, 7, 8:30, and 10:30. And I went to the 7 o'clock mass, and yeah, I drove 25 minutes, which I'm used to driving 45, but it's not a big deal. I drove 25 minutes to mass. Everybody else went to the NO, which is fine. And I was like, no, I'm going to go that one because That's what I do. And so it's just those choices you make and those times where on Fridays, unless you want to do the Benedictine rule, which is fine. You know, if you're in somebody's house and they offer you meat, you can the Benedictine rule and say, yeah, well, okay, since you offered it, you know, or you could be like, I don't eat meat. And I've had that out with in-laws before, where I'm just like, I don't eat meat on Friday. I'm sorry. And they're going to look at you weird and they're going to do all this other kind of stuff. Are you okay with that? And so that's really the question.
That's why that general starts out with saying making your bed. If you can't be disciplined enough to do simple things like make your bed or clean up or tidy up or put your shoes in the right corners, things like that, then you're not going to be able to pull off when, say, like you're confronted with 12 of your in-laws or something like this and they're busting your chops. You'll eventually cave. If you can't get that little stuff right, the big stuff's not going to happen.
Yep, indeed. So
anyway, you got a haircut. You got to get all prettied up.
I do. Speaking of discipline, I gotta go.
Look at that beautiful face. Where's the blue steel photo?
Oh, my blue steel. You can find it. It's all over the internet now.
Yeah, because you got a book coming out. When's that?
I do. That was the most embarrassing thing. I'll tell you all about that next week. It was the most embarrassing thing to do. Because I don't think I photographed. The lady did a great job. She's obviously very talented because she made me look halfway decent. But it was just like eyes up, down, So
I think he's on the cover of Time, isn't he? For best looking guy of the year award. Is that you? Right?
Nah, yeah, best looking dwarf award probably, but that's about it. I'm the best looking at Mountain Dew. What is it? The Lonely Mountain. I'm Mr. Lonely Mountain 2024. So. It is what it is. All right, folks. Thanks for hanging out with us. Please like, subscribe, and share the news from the Pew. We will talk to you all next week. God bless and Viva Cristo Rex.